Welcome back for my 3-star book reviews. So this is part 2. This is the second half, so this is about 17 books because it's an odd number, so I think it was 17. Anyways, onwards to the books. Again, these are just brief, like 1 to 2 sentences. If you want the full deep dive, the reviews will be linked below. So to begin with, we have Elemental Magic by DJ Conway. Much like all of the DJ Conway books, it's kind of hit or miss on the information. It's really only focused on the creatures associated with the element, not the element itself, which I didn't really like. And like half the book, she's telling you about something and then immediately saying, don't do it though, don't work with this. And you're like, then why did you tell me about it? Makes no sense. I'm also just not a big fan of saying that you shouldn't work with certain things, because like, people also said not to work with the Morrigan, and now it's a thriving community, so like. Then we have Witchery. It's okay for beginners. There's really nothing revolutionary being added to the conversation. And like nothing is, again, discussed in depth. It's a very small book. Psychic in You. This is one from my mother-in-law's collection. So it has a Christian emphasis to it. It's definitely a memoir and it's not actually really that informational. And when it does have any kind of information, it's just do it. That's the thing. Just go do it. As if that's how you should treat somebody. And then there's just some problematic things, like you get a free pass to heaven, which has different levels, but like whatever, because of your job for certain things. Like if you were a police officer or firefighter, free pass. Even though we know that there can be total dicks in those communities, so. Sure. Then we have Futhark by Thorsson. I'm gonna be completely honest, his books I will never touch for a variety of reasons. He's not a great dude. I didn't know this until more like past like year, even the past few months, but a lot of his work, I don't know if it's all of it, but some do go as profits to the AFA, don't want to support them. And also like his past is like sketchy on a good day. Some people have issue with that. I don't know where I really stand on that too much, but his community is so toxic that like I don't even want to go near it. And like he's definitely not discouraging the attitudes either. And honestly, I'm pretty sure the AFA is also probably on board with a lot of what that community says. So that just is another reason. Like I'm never going to talk about a Thorsson book ever again because it's just so toxic. They're the worst. So I'm just gonna not go near them. Then we have Positive Magic. This book, I mean, it's got some stuff, but it's definitely biased. There is the romanticized version of the past. And then also there's a lot of victim blaming. Like if you get attacked, it's your fault. You brought it on yourself. If you got hit by a bus, you actually wanted that to happen. Then we have the Good Energy book by Whitehurst. Honestly, I don't really like her writing. It's not necessarily bad, but like, I didn't write a review, and honestly, it's so unmemorable that it's like, what actually happened in that book? I kind of remember that it was like, well, this is not really that helpful or like revolutionary. Like, because it's so unmemorable, that also kind of says something about the book. Because even the bad books will leave you with a memory. Good books will leave you with a memory. Meh? Like, you're just kind of like, I did read that. I don't remember anything. So. And I've read quite a few books, and all of them I could usually come up, most of them I should say, I can come up with at least a few things to remember about, but this one was like, I guess nothing, because geez. Then we have a Pendulum book by Webster, and this one was not great either. You're supposed to use your pendulum to find food allergies and also to diagnose like illnesses, so that's definitely great. You're going to use your pendulum to literally decide if a thing has gluten in it, or if it has shellfish or peanuts or whatever else you're allergic to. And then also he has this like thing about like your subconscious is the reason that you're overweight. Like just minor red flags as we go. And then also to like properly use a pendulum, you have to incorporate Hawaiian magic, which is just so weird because also Hawaiian magic is definitely like very similar in a lot of ways to the Native American practices where it's pretty closed. And honestly, like you kind of need to be invited in order to really partake in their religion because like our ancestors even recently have not been great. Then we have the Witch's Book of Self-Care. This is your basic stuff. And honestly, the only intended audience for this book is if you are a neurotypical, so you have no diagnosis. Your mental health is like clean slate. No depression, no anxiety, no ADHD, no bipolar, no nothing. You're completely normal up here, which I don't know that there's a lot of us in the witchy community. Usually we have at least one or two. And you're supposed to be like neurotypical, and you're just in a little bit of a slump. That's all this book is. Otherwise, like, people who have like any diagnosis will know that it's like, if you tell me to drink water and I will feel like less depressed, you're lying. Like, we've all heard it. Everyone at some point has had like a therapist or a doctor who's like, have you considered just like choosing to be happy? You're like, you know what? Never thought of that. Ever. I just decided to be depressed all the time and be anxious. I didn't know I could choose to just not feel this way. Wow, I'm fixed. Yeah, it's that kind of vibe. Then we have The Magic of Food by Scott Cunningham. It is very outdated on some stuff. There's definitely like, you must be eating organic food, no prepackaged food, and that includes your spices, which is weird. And really, if you have like an eating disorder, this book is a trigger warning. Like, just maybe don't pick this one up, because there's a lot of sentences and different ways of putting things that could be potentially triggering for a lot of people. So just keep that in mind. Then we have Creative Visualization. I don't like to read a lot of meditations. Just kind of a boring book. Again, it's one from my mother-in-law's collection, so it's like, whatever. Then we have Natural Druidry. I'm not a druid, so I really can't speak to how the information is presented, but it's mostly a memoir. And really assumes you know a lot of stuff, and like, I don't. On Druidry, like, at all, so. I don't know from a druid's perspective if it's good or not. Then we have Witch in the Kitchen. The recipes were alright. There wasn't like a whole lot that were like, oh my god, I gotta go try these. It was just kind of like, meh, whatever. Then we have Awakening to the Spirit World. This read like a lecture in college. Like, they are not talking to you, they are talking at you. And the other thing I really hated is that it constantly was like, they couldn't stand by any point. Anytime they'd mention anything, it's like, well, and so agrees, and so says this, and you're like, have an opinion of your own. That is an option. Then we have The Magic of Flowers. There's no illustrations in this book, which is really annoying. And then she also constantly tells you to make these flower essence things, but also includes like potentially, and like from what Google said was toxic and poisonous plants to then also do your flower like thing with. So just be cautious of that. And there's not like a huge mention on which ones are like super toxic. And some of them I had to Google. I'm like, I swear this is like a toxic poisonous plant, right? So said Google, I was right. Then we have Wiccan Mysteries. It's a traditional Wicca book. I'm not traditional Wiccan, so not for me. Then we have The Essential Book of Wicca. It's just your regular introductory book, nothing really major. And some of the stuff you would really want to research further, because like, even if you're sticking with Wicca, like, there's like, one of the examples that stood out was that the equinoxes, so Mabon and Ostara, are associated with the Oak and Holly king fighting, which you could totally argue would be a great time to do that, opposed to the solstices, but that's not the norm, especially in Wicca. So to not have a disclaimer of like, hey, this is not how it's typically done, but this is how we do it, it makes you want to research a lot of other things. And then the last one is the Runes book I just barely talked about. Like, as of recording it, I think the video went up like this week, to give you context. So I don't really know that I agree with all of the interpretations of the runes from this book. But the bigger thing was that I think it had more to do with whoever was in charge of the English version of the book, not necessarily the author. Whoever was the editor and translator, they had misspellings and typos quite a bit. So that's not on the author, but whoever of the publishing house was in charge of the English editions. They missed the mark. So there we go. As of currently, those are all of my 3-star book reviews. I will try to keep you posted. I don't know how often. I feel like maybe like once a year or something of like going through my starred reviews and being like, this is the current list, because I read a lot of books. So inevitably, we're gonna have more to add to these. So for now, that is my 3 stars. I would love to hear some of your 3-star books in the comments down below. Huge thank you to my patrons. I'll have their names here on the screen. If you'd like to support me and get access to exclusive content, it is patreon.com/nightwillowcrafts. Make sure to like and subscribe. I post every single day. And until next time, thank you so much for watching, and blessed be.